Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar organized by JetBrains. I'm Paul Everitt, Python and Web Developer Advocate. And today, well, it's something special, a JetBrains webinar from the advocacy team. And I'm joined by my colleagues, my buddies, Helen Scott, Khalid Abuhakmeh. Let's do some quick intros. Helen, you go first.
Brilliant, thank you. So, as has already been covered, I'm Helen Scott, a Java Developer Advocate here at JetBrains, and I am just really excited to be here. Like Paul said, this is the first kind of time we've done something like this. It's definitely my first time. So it's an opportunity to learn from my colleagues, learn from the professionals, and share some opinions and do a few demos, quite a lot of demos, actually. Yeah, good to be here. Over to you, Khalid.
Quite a lot of demos indeed. And in fact, Khalid, you and I, after years of threatening, it's the first time I believe that we are actually presenting together. This is a running joke. Every time we talk every day, we say we should do something. Khalid, give a quick intro.
Yeah, my name is Khalid Abuhakmeh, and I'm a .NET advocate. So I primarily focus on ReSharper, Rider, and kind of our Ultimate tools. You'll see me on Twitter tweeting about .NET tips, C#, F#, that kind of thing. But I've been deputized as a WebStorm advocate for this webinar. So I won't pull the badge out, but I'm ready. I'm ready to demo some WebStorm new UI stuff. So thank you, Paul. Thank you, Helen, for having me here. It's always fun.
Thank you, Khalid, for letting the cat out of the bag on my next thing to say. What is it that brings us together? New UI, one of the biggest IDE platform initiatives we've done. Lots to talk about, and we have someone else joining us in chat. Helen, give us an intro.
We do. It is my pleasure to say that we have Olga in our chat today. She is one of the principal designers of the new UI effort. She's amazing. So ask us your questions, and well, you'll get our opinions because that's kind of what we like to do. But Olga, she's brilliant. She speaks in facts. And Olga, if you're I know you're in the YouTube chat, give a little hello, please, so people can say hi.
Isn't that just the way it is with us advocates? You can come to us for something pithy, but if you want, something useful, we'll help you find that person.
Definitely. Hey, we got the hot takes, Paul. That's why we get paid the big bucks.
This is the hot take webinar, is it not? So I'll save my usual pitter patter for the first segment. Let's go to the slides and then do some prep and some conversation, and of course some demos. Hey, Khalid, can I use you as a remote control?
Yeah, sure. What do you need?
Can you advance a slide for me, Khalid?
I can.
This is new for me. Having multiple advocates
in the
same webinar.
It is new. There we go. Look at that.
All right. As you can see, we'd like to make this webinar as live and conversational as possible. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask right here in chat. Some questions we'll answer right there. We, meaning Olga. If you get an answer from us, probably wait for Olga to give a better answer after that. Some questions we'll answer right there. Some we will cover on camera in between demo segments when we chat about things. Next slide. I have a running joke in my webinars. Someone will ask 3 minutes from now, is this being recorded? Yes, it's YouTube. It's recorded. It's going to be available immediately afterwards. But also we will do a blog post and tweet reminding people about the recording and pointing to a link for it. Okay, onward into the punditry. What is this new UI thing? Why are we doing it? There was a blog post. We have a screenshot here, and thanks to Khalid, a handy dandy QR code. I hope it goes to the right place. That goes to the blog post that kind of gives a little bit of an explanation about the first launch of this. What was its origin and point? We'll go over that origin a little bit. Helen, can we advance the slide? Helen, can you talk a little bit about why?
Sure. So yeah, we've had a lot of to and fro on this, but for me, why? It's because trends have changed and they'll continue to change. This is not, this is just life. It's kind of how it goes. But it's about changing with our users and getting that feedback, really understanding what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and that rigorous process as we've got there of rethinking feedback, constant iteration.
Let's go to the next slide. Khalid, out on those interwebs things, there's a lot of information. There's a lot of misinformation. So let's go ahead and state our goals real quick. What are the goals of this new UI project?
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one big thing is kind of hearing from our user base about complexities. We actually saw one in the chat where someone mentioned their clients think our old UI is maybe a little too complex. So we want to actually reduce visual complexity. There might be things in the old UI that maybe don't make sense for a modern, development process and development workflow. So reducing that visual complexity is great. Listening to our users and gathering metrics about what's being used and what's not being used, we've been able to kind of fine tune and reduce the complexity and make it easier to access those things that you typically want to access. One of the things I'll be showing later is this kind of progressive disclosure. It's kind of a fancy phrase for just things will appear when you need them to appear, and they'll stay there once you access them. We'll see that with the tool windows. And, we're always looking to kind of refine, make things clean, modern, accessible for our users. So this is our attempt at kind of reaching that ideal. So hopefully that covers it for everybody.
A couple of things from chat. A bunch of people are trolling me about the recorded thing. I think that's real funny. Ha 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 ha. And there was a question about how do you turn it on? That will be the first thing that we show. But first, I want to talk a little bit about some of the pushback that we got when we first did the announcement, and go ahead and just talk about it a little bit. We are an IDE. Nothing is actually disappearing. All that power is still there. It's all behind the keyboard still. You can still do actions and key bindings to get to things. So we're not dumbing anything down. This will remain a power tool for power users, consistent with our heritage. And second, there was a feeling, I guess, that this was a really quick change and people had spent a lot of time investing in learning the existing UI. And remember, we're JetBrains. We're one of you. We're not going to do anything drastic and dramatic. This is going to play out over a couple of years. We will continue listening and refining, gradual rollout. And as the blog post says, it won't become a default UI until we feel like the majority of the people have successfully migrated to it. So before we jump into demos, Helen or Khalid, you got any other points you wanted to go over?
I'll let Helen go first because she's definitely smarter than me, and she has a lot of thoughts.
She is. That's true.
I was hoping that you would go first, so I could just
No, you go
something
first.
you were going to say. I think for me, one of the most, well, not crucial point, but the point that stands out is about getting that feedback and really finding out, that this is a process. This isn't a case of now it's one way and now it's changed. It's a different way. It's a process. It's a journey. And, one of our goals today is to help, bring you on that journey and show you around and get your feedback. And that's probably going to be a theme throughout. And we'll show you how to do that as well. So that for me is I think probably the most important thing.
Khalid?
Yeah, I mean, we have dumbing down in quotes, right? I actually had someone reach out to me and say, why is JetBrains going Fisher Price? For folks who don't know, Fisher Price is like a kid's toy brand. And I guess I kind of see where they're coming from. Like things are maybe being hidden a little bit that you may not need for your common development workflow, but I don't really think that's a fair assessment from some of the users saying those things, because like Paul, you mentioned earlier, all of our tools are still there. The key maps are basically the same. The editor code experience is going to remain the same. So to that point, like it's still the IDE you know and love. And to Helen's point too, there are definitely refinements going to be coming down the line. JetBrains has been very consistent about trying something, and iterating on it and improving on it. And the UI is no different from any other tooling that we've kind of pushed out as a company. So yeah.
All right. And to
stay
follow
calm
up on
and
a
carry
point
on.
both of you were making, this is a serious effort that involves serious listening and focus groups and putting things through a rigorous process. Olga and her team really are putting a lot of thought into what is a distraction versus what should remain and get more attention. So let's go ahead and switch over to my screen and let's see this thing. Okay. Quick audience question. What IDE am I in?
Come on,
I guess
people,
the Go part
go
gave it
for
away.
it.
I'm in GoLand in dark mode in the existing UI. So the very first thing is, how do we turn this thing on in the EAPs? I can go to settings, go to new UI, and enable new UI. Apply, okay, restart, and it's going to come back probably on the wrong screen. No, way to go, macOS. Okay, so I am in the new UI, and one of the first things I'm going to do is talk about themes, icons, and fonts. So I'm going to go to the theme, and I'm going to go to dark. And you'll see from the layout, the light and dark color themes are the two kind of new UI supported themes at the moment. And they have a much improved contrast ratio and improved color palette. I'm going to fix the font in a second. And if you want to go and change the fonts, we'll take a look at two of the fonts. This is the kind of IDE, Chrome, menu, all that other font, not the editor font, in appearance and behavior appearance. And we have a font that we're using in the existing UI. We use the system font, so it's different on each operating system. Now we're using a font called Enter. I'm putting it in a boomer mode. Am I right, Khalid? Nice big font for you.
Such a boomer mode. Such a
boomer mode. And I got to get boomer mode on the editor font too. So I'm going to switch to using the color scheme, dark, and I'm going to set this to 24. I believe both of you said don't enable ligatures because it freaks people out. And now this is what you see from the perspective of fonts for the system font and the editor font. Next up, the icon set has been reimagined for legibility and visual balance, where we kind of put everything on the table across different themes and reinvented it. So you'll see the tool window icons, some of the window menu and other icons, etc. And as you switch back and forth between themes, it'll all make sense. And let's see, I will also go over, so that's the themes, the icons, the fonts. I'll very quickly just run something, but Khalid is going to do most of the talking about the changes for running. So this is go. I'm going to go run something, and you see the run menu at the bottom. It's the same stuff underneath. It just is better organized and more consistently portrayed. So I'll stop there for a second and see, let's see, do we have any audience questions that have come up or any topics, Khalid, that you think we should cover?
Nothing really kind of sticks out other than kind of commentary. Oh, this looks really nice. You know, this looks like some other editors out there.
Sure.
That kind of thing. Yeah, it looks a lot like Fleet, really clean. That was one of the comments. So yeah, no real.
You know, a lot of these just applications in general, but developer tools in particular, have evolved in the last 20 years. And so there are a lot of standards, and one influences one, which influences another, which influences another. And this new UI project is not, let's just say it is a result of listening to customers and finding out what they want. Helen, do you have anything that jumps out at you about theme, icons, or fonts?
Jumps out at me. Ooh.
Are you light or dark?
I'm light. I'm waiting for people to go, oh, my eyes, when I share my screen, because I like the light theme. I always have, but I just think it looks really nice. It looks clean, and yeah, big fan.
Yeah, I think folks will see it when you share your screen, Helen. I do like the dark main toolbar at the top in light
It's my
mode.
favorite.
That's really cool. So
Yeah.
we'll see
I
what
agree.
people
It does jump out. The contrast on that really jumps out.
Yep. Maybe because it's
Speaking
dark.
of the window menu and toolbar and stuff, let's switch over to Helen's screen. And while she's getting set up, we will kind of tee it up. We're going to go into the window header and the thing at the top, which includes some things that Helen likes a whole bunch. And she's then going to cover the editor. So get some of those questions coming in.
All right. How am I looking? Font good? Everything
Great.
good?
Much better
Fantastic.
than dark.
Who uses dark? Now, let's not go down that rabbit hole. Yeah. So as has been mentioned, one of the features that I really like is this top Windows toolbar up here. It's got a bunch of freshly designed widgets on it, which I'm going to walk you through and try and stick to my allotted time, which I'm probably not going to manage. First up, over on the far left-hand side, we've got the project widget. So, oh, brilliant. It's opening on the wrong screen. That's really helpful. Okay. Not too sure how I'm going to fix that. Let me take it out of full screen mode and see if that makes a difference. Perfect. Okay. Apologies. We're not going to be in full screen mode. So you can do the actions that you would expect to be able to do. So new project, open, get from version control, and you can see your recent projects, like the standard tasks that you would expect to do with project manipulation. Moving along, you've got your VCS widget. So that used to be bottom right. And it's just, again, it's a nice visual representation of where you are in the world. So I'm on my main branch. I've got some outgoing changes that I've not yet pushed to the remote server. And again, if I drop it down, I can see the operations that I'm most likely to perform. Okay. One of my favorite things. Let's see if I can go back into full screen. Okay, the run widget, the run configurations drop down. You'll all know it as different things. I really like this. I think it's wonderfully clean, and we can just drop down, see what I've been, running recently. If I want to run something, I can use the keyboard shortcuts, which I'm not going to do today, but I can click the run icon up there, or I can use my gutter icons. Let's give it a quick go, shall we? Run that. All right. And I'm not going to go into debugging in too much detail because Khalid is going to cover it later. But let's say we put a breakpoint down here on line 32. I can click anywhere now. Beforehand, you had to click slightly to the right. I can click on the line number. I can set my breakpoint, and I can debug my application. So you can see now it's changed to green. So I've got nice visual feedback of what's going on with my project. I'm going to stop that from running. Code with me. If you haven't used Code with me yet, it's amazing. I use it a lot. You can either start a session or join a session, copy a link, paste it in there. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Search everywhere. Really, really helpful. So most of you will be familiar with Search Everywhere, but it's nice just to have it accessible on that toolbar there. You can click through. Search Everywhere is kind of cool as well, because if you don't necessarily know what you're looking for, you can often take an educated guess and get to your actions. Git as well. If you haven't seen it yet, you can search your Git commits, which is a lot of fun. Over on the far right, you've got your settings. So in there, you've got your settings and preferences, your project structure. You can change your JDK. Again, all fun stuff. What else is cool that I want to show you? Gutter. Yes, let me show you the gutter icon. Let me just switch projects to Java at 25. Right. See Git annotations here. Let me close them so they're annotate with Git blame. This color palette has changed. So you've now got, it's all in a blue hue, and you've got the lighter blue for changes that are older. So you can see some changes from Trisha G a couple of years ago, and you can see some newer changes from myself this year. So the darker the hue, because those are the changes you're most likely going to be interested in. So those are the ones that we want to surface and show you. So yeah, I'm going to pause there and see if there's any questions from the audience.
We have a few. Some are just comments. Nigel says already using it and liking it.
Great.
I'll give a pitch for that same sentiment myself a little bit later. And Paradox V5 asked if there are any themes that we're going to ship that are more colorful.
Ooh,
I know that Olga covered that 30 minutes ago, and I've already forgotten what she said. Do you remember what she said?
I don't.
Specifically, what do you mean? So I will say this, we won't be demoing some of the different themes, but from my personal testing, themes are kind of hit or miss right now. Most of the themes work because they're color based. So go out, try your favorite themes, see if there's something missing. And if there is, contact the author of that theme to see if they can kind of update for the new UI. But so far, it's kind of been like an 80-20 split for me from my personal experience. So
Sure.
That's kind of what I would say to that.
Talis gave a thank you for the contrast, which is something that takes real professionals to get right. And I'm glad we have those and not us.
Yeah.
Guido asked the setting for the new UI. He doesn't see it. I wonder if that's because he's not on the EAP.
Yeah.
If you are on the EAP and you don't see it, give us a little nudge somewhere in Twitter or here in chat, or summon Olga. Give Olga a nudge in chat and see if she can help you sort that out. And let's see, Oxymoron had a question about further changes to the sorting and tree of the settings, especially including a specialized accessibility area. That's one for Olga to handle in detail, but maybe one of you two can kind of cover a little bit about how JetBrains sees, the feedback cycle from these EAPs and when things land and how much input we're taking and stuff like this.
Yeah, Helen, do you want to go first, or should I go first?
I'm happy to hand over to you, especially since you're next up on the demo roster.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of feedback, JetBrains has been quite excellent at taking back feedback. So if you're not familiar, we have our issue tracker and UTrack. Go there, put issues in. You'll be talking directly to the developers and designers working on our products. And the feedback and the back and forth conversations that I've seen between our developers and community of users always leads us to kind of some of the best solutions there are out there. So your engagement is really, really critical to making our products the best. So again, go to our UTrack, put issues in, and have those conversations with us. So
yep.
There was a question from RV4 Tyler. Will the old UI be available? It will be available for a good old long while. That's covered in the blog post. I won't belabor the point on that. Helen, you got anything more you want to add to these comments? Or
I think the only piece of functionality, or one of the many, did I forget to demo anything? That's the question. The drop-down icon, not drop-down, code folding icon has changed as well. So you can just see it here. If you like to fold your code away, then just to note that that's changed and that it will still be visible, and you'll still, so if I minimize that again and do the mouse over, you'll still get that really nice visual feedback if you do want to have a little peek into what's inside that code folding. But yeah,
okay, we will switch over to Khalid's screen, and while Khalid is getting set up, Olga made a point in chat, which I think is a theme that we would like our audience to really help us on, which is progressive disclosure. The IDE has so much going on. We can only show you so much. And there's so many features that we have, really awesome things that people don't even know exist. So the last couple of years, we've been trying to surface these things when they are needed or when we think you should use them, and put them in a semi-obtrusive, unobtrusive place in the UI. That's what we mean by progressive disclosure. If any of you have any suggestions for Olga in the chat here or in Twitter afterwards, let us know. But always try and be thinking about places where we could surface these things. Khalid, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, hit it.
I'm imagining people massaging their eyes now and thanking dark mode for coming back on.
Get off my grass. Get off my lawn.
But anyways, I'm in WebStorm right now. You may notice it kind of looks similar to what Paul and Helen were kind of demoing earlier. a lot of our UIs are going to be going down the similar UI trend, with each IDE kind of having its own unique to its own ecosystem features. But I'll be showing you kind of the tool windows. We now have 4 quadrants in our IDEs. So top left, top right, bottom right. You can kind of see each of them has an icon or set of icons here. If you don't see anything that you're kind of used to seeing in your IDE, you have this more tool windows. You can come in here and kind of select which tool window you actually want to see. So in WebStorm, I want to see maybe all the NPM scripts that I have. That's really nice. If you're a keyboard shortcut wizard, you can still trigger those tool windows using your shortcut keys. Right now I'm pressing Command 1. That's kind of what's showing up here. We have our commit window that you're used to, NPM, structure. Right now I'm in a V-test project here. So you can kind of see things have kind of been cleaned up in terms of the UI. The thing I want to kind of point out too, the tool windows at the top, they will expand vertically. So top left, you can see it goes from top to bottom, top right, top to bottom. The bottom quadrants, they will unfurl and open horizontally. So this is really good for your terminals. I also have my problems here on the bottom right, so you can do them side by side when you're doing horizontal stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the tool windows. Let's get into debugging. Well, actually, before I move on, Paul, how do you feel about how these quadrants work right now in the new UI?
I found it to be really natural. I'm someone who has used the new UI extremely heavily since the summer in both WebStorm and Python. And it's been a good fit. It feels a little different, but still feels familiar.
Yeah.
From the quadrants perspective.
Yeah. And I do appreciate how the tool windows are using iconography. Coming from Rider, I like the old UI. I love the new UI, but sometimes seeing all those words can kind of trip my brain into wanting to read them. Whereas right now, it kind of fades in the background, lets my code really shine. And again, key maps work, so I can kind of pop the project window open really easily. So that's great. Let's go ahead and debug. Helen showed this earlier, but I'll kind of walk through what the new debug window looks like. And it will differ based on your ecosystem. Go, JavaScript, Java, .NET. So some of these things might actually differ, and the windows that you get will differ based on your ecosystem. But you can kind of see our new icons down here in the debugger toolbar, which honestly, these look great. These are awesome looking. I love the combination of white with greens and reds, and kind of like the faded reds in kind of the breakpoints icon and the stop button. So those are really, really cool. I like those. If I step through, you can kind of see these icons. Let's step into, see where we get to. This is Vue.js, so sometimes I don't even know where things are going to end up. And you can kind of step through just like you're used to in your debugging experience. There are more actions here. These are the less common actions that you might want to take during a debugging session. But everything is still here. So don't worry that we've taken any functionality away. It's still all there, but just kind of hidden from you. But Paul, Helen, have you been debugging with the new UI? Like, what are some of the things you found that were kind of surprising to you?
I think for me, one of the things I didn't really notice in some ways, which was in itself a surprise. It was smooth. I just was able to understand what was going on. nothing had kind of changed to the point that my brain was like, whoa, whoa, what's going on here? Which was really nice. So it's for me, it was a really nice experience because I didn't have to stop, think, and relearn some stuff again. Like you've mentioned, really nice contrast, even though I prefer light theme. But yeah, it was smooth.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the experience for me, just even debugging, kind of going through it, has been pretty seamless. I think the icons pop a lot more, and you have that, even though this is dark theme and folks may struggle with contrast, there's a lot of high contrast in here. And again, depending on your ecosystem, you're going to have the same debugging tabs that you're kind of used to. So in JavaScript, I'm getting these debugger console, process console tabs, but in .NET, I might have like the threads tab or, my profiling tab and stuff like that. So it's going to differ based on each tool, but overall, the toolbar is going to be basically the same. Paul, what's it like
yeah,
being a Fashionista?
I'd say debugger is the place that was the one that I had to look instead of scan, because of the changes in where the buttons were. I don't know why I haven't memorized the keystrokes for debugging, but I haven't. But it wasn't that hard to understand, and it takes only a few tries before it becomes muscle memory. I think the only, from a tool window perspective, exactly one thing has been removed that I used. And I went to the PyCharm team and I was like, hey, why does the VCS toolbar no longer have show diff? And they said, you can just double click on the top thing and it will do exactly. Oh yeah, duh. Okay, that is smarter. So one more time, even when I think I'm right, I'm wrong. We have some things. Can you demo? Warner was asking if you can still move tool windows. Can you show how you might move something from the left to the right or make it unpinned or whatever?
Yeah. So if you right click any icon, you can pick the quadrant that you want to move it into. So let's say right top, and now my structure window is up here. Let's see if
you can triple dot click it and get some of the view options for it.
Yeah. So here I'm actually floating the tool window, which is kind of nice. All I did was kind of drag it, but the icon still stays there, so you can kind of toggle it on and off. The one thing that we're still kind of looking at is, I know certain people want to dock tool windows together. That's something that's still being discussed. I don't know if it's going to make it, but it seems like one of those things that probably will. But don't quote me on it. But yeah, it's super easy. I did want to show one thing that I think is kind of cool.
Sure.
We do have like a recent files switcher. So the way I did that was Command Shift comma, at least in WebStorm. And that kind of brings up all your editor windows that you can kind of jump between. But you can also toggle, those tool windows as well. So one of the things I love about our IDEs is like there's always multiple ways to get at something, and the thing that's most comfortable for you is the thing you should adopt and kind of go with. So so very cool stuff. That's really it. That's really
a couple other points. There's a question being asked repeatedly: when will this be available? It's available in EAP now, which means it's most likely going to be shipping in 2022.3 for our IDEs, but behind that flag. It will not be made the default in this release cycle. It might be made the default in the next release cycle, might not. Depends on how much feedback we get. We're not trying to bake this at a higher temperature to get it out of the oven faster. There's a related question, which I'll handle in a second, about the old UI. Olga answered it, but I wanted to point to the blog post. And let's see, that's what I have for current questions. What we'll do is we will switch to my screen. And Khalid, if you could be scanning over there looking for questions you think that we could talk about after this. I'm only going to show a couple of things, starting with the blog post. This is the blog post that I did the screenshot of from May of this year in the IntelliJ blog. And at the end, it's discussed, we plan to keep them side by side for a period of time, at least a year after the new UI becomes the default. So this is the kind of thing that JetBrains, I think, has always done great whenever there was a major change. We listen, we modify, we backtrack a little bit if we need to, but we still reach the destination in a way that everybody is happy with. Don't forget, please don't forget, there are a lot of people who've been asking for this for a very long time. And so we are going through the listening with them and also working with the people who want to keep as much of their experience as they go from current UI to new UI. Do either one of you want to add to that point before I proceed?
No, you summed it up nicely.
All right. I'm in, gosh, I should have gotten something that didn't have PY in it. I'm in PyCharm. And I'm in my look, which I do in current UI and in new UI. I turn everything off. I don't go into presentation mode or distraction-free mode, I should say. I don't go into distraction-free mode. I just turn off essentially all the Chrome. I turn off tabs. I turn off the tool windows. I turn off the tool bar. And now I can actually turn off the status bar, which had the one thing in it that I really wanted, the branches menu, because now, ding, ding, as Helen showed, we've got it in a very featured, prominent place, which makes sense because the usage stats will probably show that it's a very common activity. So that's a lean look. I'm back in God's mode, meaning the light mode. And I'm side by side in testing. I've got a simple Python script on the left. I've got my test code on the right. And similar to run, similar to debug, this is another tool. I'm going to go and run a Python test, and it's going to do the toolbar at the bottom. And you can see the tool window. I'm sorry, it did the tool window at the bottom with some of the run stuff and a different kind of thing, the test reporting output and stuff like that. I can set a breakpoint, run this test under the debugger. So this is, we've shown in Java, we've shown in Go, we've shown in JavaScript. This is the same kind of thing in Python. And it's just a series of things that are common between our tools. But again, this is new UI, but I've stripped it down a whole bunch. And so you might not even feel like this is an IDE anymore. It just looks like Super Vim. High contrast Vim. Vim with superpowers.
Did you install the Idea Vim plugin? Because it's pretty great if you're a Vim user. So you can't say that unless you're doing Vim, Paul.
That's a good point. I have a crowd that's going to attack me on Twitter, I guess.
Alex Cook said new UI, aka Vim. So now
I saw that someone tweeted that this week.
Now you derailed this whole webinar, Paul. No,
no, it was me for saying Vim. So that's the fourth IDE that we're showing today. And you see some of the commonalities between everything. This is a platform project. This is a big initiative for JetBrains. And you can see how once you start to use it a little bit, it feels pretty comfortable and you can still customize it a lot. So do you have any points coming up that you want to surface?
There's actually a really good question. I know folks are, we talked about Idea Vim being a plugin. One of the questions is like, will plugins have to change to adapt to the new UI? Paul, do you want to answer that, or do you want me to try to maybe answer?
If you could. I'm gonna. There's one more thing I've got a demo that I forgot about.
Oh, okay. Why don't you demo that and then we'll get back to
sure.
the plugin question.
I had turned off the status bar. I turned it back on, and you see you still have these status bar panels and things that you can customize and turn things on and off and stuff. So for example, I don't really need to see Flow.js. I'll turn that off. But the status bar, the navigation bar, breadcrumbsy kind of thing that used to be up here is now down here. essentially the same functionality, not a whole lot of reinvention on it. You can walk up to something, you can do that. You can then use the no mouse. You can, dive into things and dive into things. You can make a new file here if you want to. You can refactor, rename, and stuff like. Oh, I lost my file. You can refactor, rename a file and stuff like that. I turn it off because I generally do this mode where I summon it on command with Alt up.
Huh.
But it's still the navigation bar that has gotten a whole bunch of treatment in the new UI effort.
Mm-hmm. That's a cool trick, Paul. I didn't know you could trigger that there. So learn something.
Yep. Thanks. What do you have for covering that about plugins?
Yeah, I think all plugins are still using kind of the same plugin, APIs that are always been there in the IntelliJ ecosystem. So plugins should still work for the most part. The one thing you will kind of have to wait is for plugin authors to maybe adapt some of the UI styling that the new UI is using. So while we're in that transition period, while authors are updating their plugins, their plugins might look a little janky, but still completely usable. So yeah, don't worry about losing productivity just because things are starting to look pretty, I guess. So yeah.
I'm replying to Sarah Kelly. Helen, do you have any plugins that are a big part, and I mean unbundled plugins, that are a big part of your daily Java development experience?
Good question. Trying to think. I don't think I generally don't. No, I generally what I get out of the box, certainly with Ultimate, works for me. I don't generally need to add additional plugins to that setup for my day-to-day.
And we as advocates don't get to do anything that is different because we have to make videos with the lowest common denominator. So we'll be the last to know if there's a plugin that doesn't fit in nicely. Khalid, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, coming from the .NET ecosystem, Roslyn, which is a compiler as a service, sometimes you need to get kind of those targets from abstract syntax trees. So there is a plugin called Rosnit, but the display is basically just a table kind of giving you basic information. And it's been working fine in the new UI. So I don't imagine that author has to do much, if anything. There are a couple plugins like Plant UML, which is, I know, used across all of our IDEs. That group of plugin authors maybe just needs to update their plugin icon because right now it's like a PNG. So it kind of sticks out like a sore thumb in our new UI. But again, not really a functionally breaking problem, just kind of a aesthetic problem. So I wouldn't expect people to lose a lot of functionality as they move to the new UI.
So in a related sense, Tallis is asking about anything new with the database UI, meaning DataGrip, as a plugin for our IDEs. I've used DataGrip a little bit recently, and I don't see it doing anything certainly that stands out certainly nothing that's broken, certainly nothing that seems to be standing out negatively. Maybe there's something where they could do it in a more new UI-ish way. I don't know. Do either of you have an opinion about that?
I mean, I've been using kind of the tooling inside of Rider, and I've added the database tooling to WebStorm previously. I don't have it now because I just upgraded my WebStorm instance. But yeah, like you said, the one thing that sticks out that we're still going to fine tune is maybe like some padding here and there. But those are really all small, minor things that should kind of be worked out in time. So data grip and database tooling works fine from what I've seen.
Helen, have you noticed anything when you've been in the UI? Have you noticed anything in the VCS tool window or any of the other kind of related systems, the Gradle stuff, whatever, that might that you think might be a candidate for some new UIification, or does it all seem pretty smooth?
Ooh, make more work. Seems pretty smooth. For me, the moving of the widget up to the top left mostly. It's really nice. It's where my eye kind of goes to. I don't always look bottom right unless I'm looking for some kind of status. So to get that immediate feedback of what branch am I on, because I forget.
Oh yeah,
quite a lot. It's really nice just to go, oh yeah, okay, we need to do that. And I'm also a big fan of the small things. And these are not new with this new UI. They already exist just as colored dots, I think, on the bottom right. But the visual indication that you have outgoing or incoming changes is really nice as well, because we all get in our zone and we get a bit carried away. And before you know it, you have a nice merge conflict. And so I think what has been done. So yeah. But no, I really like what's been done in the surfacing of more functionality that is more common, arguably, from what we've learned over the years, and not taking anything away, but equally surfacing the stuff that is used the most is very helpful.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go ahead and switch back to the slides real quick. And one question from the audience that's come up quite a bit. We should probably have the three of us tackle real quick. This is different than Fleet. Fleet is a new user UI UX. It's actually a new everything on the rendering side. It's a different UI toolkit. It's not Java Swing. This is Swing. This will remain Swing. And what we're finding is we can get a lot out of it with our existing IDEs and give people the new look that they've been asking for from a while. And that's actually pretty cool.
I agree. Yeah. It's like Java Swing does a lot for us at JetBrains. So why throw the baby out with the bathwater in this case? Like some of the things we've seen internally with hackathons, what you could do with Java Swing kind of would blow people's minds. So I don't think Java Swing is the issue.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't see it going away. Yeah.
Full disclosure, no babies were actually thrown out with any bathwater in the making of this webinar.
Oh, sorry. That's an Americanism. So people look that up. I don't throw babies.
No, actually, don't look that up at all. Let's talk a little bit about remaining work. And then if the two of you could keep an eye, scroll back up, go through some of the comments, because we'll do a final wrap up in just a second. After this segment, we'll do some more questions from the audience. Remaining work 2022.3 has some things that are ongoing. They haven't been delivered yet. The intention is to wrap them up. Even though we're in feature freeze, we're refining what we have. So the run widget is one of them. It's actually come a good ways in just the last few weeks. I like it a lot. It really pops. Some work on the gutter, some work on mnemonics, and just generally fixing broken things like the word mnemonic. You can easily find all of this in our UTrack tracker. I think we've got a pretty good label on all that to see a grouping and what is forecast for when. Then beyond this release cycle, in the next release cycle and beyond, there are some things that we know about. I won't go into detail on all of them because they're going to change, because all of you out there are going to come to us with, hey, we really should do, and we're going to say, oh yeah, and then we're going to focus group it and put our process on it. But there are a number of other things that we would like to take a look at. The split view, editor tabs and multi-line layout and padding. macOS project tabs aren't supported. Showing the main menu, separate toolbar, setting sync widget, code with me and its widget, the space plugin, etc. So we're kind of going, we're well past the core work into refining the stuff people use most of the time. And then in 2023, we will get out to those kind of supporting systems. All right. Helen or Khalid, got anything you see in chat or got anything that you want to close out with? Khalid, we'll go with you first.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are mentioning Rider, being that I'm mostly working .NET. I will say I've been working with Rider in the new UI for the last month. And generally, it's really good with the new UI. But like Paul mentioned, there are refinements still happening. All the tools that you would want to access from the main toolbar are still accessible through other means. But I know our UI team is currently refining the experience specifically for Rider and .NET, because the .NET ecosystem is more project and solution based versus all the other ecosystems that are file based, right? So Rider is kind of the special IDE of the bunch and requires a little bit more work. So yes, the new UI is going to be supported in Rider. Still some work needed to be done there. So yeah.
Helen, you got anything to add to that?
I think for me, it's to reiterate, or in a slightly different way, the point that I made earlier about feedback and about going on a journey. And if you can get in there, enable the new UI, try it out, have a play. If you're in your settings and preferences where you enable it, there's a link in there that's specifically give feedback on the new UI.
Yeah,
I
good point.
can't remember the exact wording, but it's give feedback on the new UI.
Oh, no.
So you can go in there, you can click that, and do let us know what you think, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, so that we can keep iterating on that. And I'm just seeing in the chat, there's been some suggestions as well that I know Olga would have taken note of,
right,
to feedback to the team, which is great. And yeah, it's in the EAP. So the switch will be on all these numbers, 2022.3, right, Paul? 2022.
Yes.
There's a lot of twos in this world right now.
I have a what's new video where I'm going to fumble that 10 times.
Yeah, definitely. You should just record, just saying that number and then insert that segment everywhere.
Machine generated.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, feedback's crucial. Feedback's important. Feedback matters, specifically yours.
Yeah.
And on that point, you, Colin, I'll get to you in just a second. On that point, you spent time with Olga in the booth at a conference recently.
Yes.
That is just a really good team. Thank you to the new UI team for working over a period of time, working methodically, inventing processes along the way to do a thorough job at structured listening. It's really cool to see. So thank you to all the folks on the team.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to say. Like, I've been watching the chat. Not just Olga, other JetBrains folks are in the chat, answering questions, interacting with the community, trying to help. So a really big shout out to the folks doing the work. Thank you so much. It's always great to be working with great people. So yeah, it's awesome.
By the way, Khalid, at 3 minutes ago, Inner Perez said, drop the dot. Do you have any commentary? You'd like?
No, let's not bring drop the dot into this webinar.
Not bring that drama in.
We'd like to finish.
Okay,
on time.
let's go ahead and start a little bit of a wrap up. We'll get to the slides in just a second, not quite yet. We just did a whirlwind tour of the new UI across 4 IDEs. Lots to be excited about. Let's get some parting words in, things that you would like people to remember about the new UI on the way out the door. Khalid, you go first. What's one thing you want people to take as a takeaway?
Just kind of try it. It's you might be suffering from who moved my cheese a little bit. Change is happening. Change is great until it happens to you, but take the time, really use the new UI, and see what actually doesn't work for you and give us that feedback. So I guess their takeaway is just try it and give it a fair shake. I think
give it a fair shake. Well said. Helen, the Java and Kotlin world, obviously pretty big for us in our IDEs. What's the message you want to give to your folks?
I'm going to be boring and say the same. Try it. Just switch it on. Just, I don't know, pick a Thursday and go, today I'm going to switch it on and I'm going to try it. And maybe you're a keyboard shortcut kind of person, or maybe you're a mouse kind of person. Maybe you're a bit of a mix. It doesn't matter. Just give it a go and send us your feedback, because we are here, we are listening, and we would really love to know what you think.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'll talk a little bit about my experience using it. this summer for vacation programming. I went into it thinking, OMFG, I'm going to hate this. And I very quickly got to the, it's all right. And then I got to the, hey, wait, I like this. And when I had to switch back, just like Khalid said, I didn't want to switch back. And so I know some of you are like I was in the beginning before starting. If I say get excited about and you hear get terrified about, we get it. But remember, we're JetBrains. When we do something big, we go the extra, I'll localize it, kilometer to be respectful about it. And when I used the new UI for vacation programming, it was surprising to me. I loved it, but I recognize that this is a lot to chew on. So we're here for you.
Yeah,
how was that? Was that heartfelt?
Enough.
Enough. Okay. Okay, let's switch over to the slides. If you'd like to get more information on the new UI or anything about our IDEs, please go to our website at jetbrains.com. That's weird for me not saying /PyCharm or /WebStorm because this is a JetBrains webinar. If you haven't already, check out the JetBrains blog and Twitter for links to award-winning, industry-leading content from your advocacy team, such as this webinar. I made all that up. We'd love your feedback on this webinar. We actually read the surveys that you send in, so please feel free to send us some feedback on Twitter or in the after webinar survey. If you registered, you'll get a link to it. That is all from us today. Helen, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Khalid, thanks for jumping in on this and showing WebStorm, baby.
Yeah, it's been great. And I guess I'm a JavaScript advocate now, so that's kind of weird. But
breaking news. You heard it here first.
Limited time.
We'll see.
We'll see. And most of all, thanks to all of you for joining us today, for watching. Hope you have a nice day.
Yep. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.